This Wednesday.
It might be a yes.
Good morning, and welcome to Eastrose, everyone here in the chapel and online at home. We are happy you have chosen to join us this morning on this second Sunday of the Advent season. I'm Jan Apland-Curtis, your worship leader today, and our minister, Reverend Robbins' sermon today is titled, Noah Built an Ark Before He Had Water. And just so everyone is aware, today is a little bit different. Only our chapel is open, so people are entering and exiting through this door, and there are a couple of very clean, nice porta potties out there. If you need to use them, you're welcome to.
It's an adventure.
Yes.
I can attest, very clean.
Okay, thank you. So we have a land acknowledgement. Eastrose acknowledges that for at least 13,000 years, many tribes and bands have made their lives here, where our church home and communities now exist. We remember and honor these people who made their homes on this land, the ones here now and those who lived here before. In peace, may we share this land and honor one another. Now we'll take a moment and greet each other, both here in the chapel and to those online. So we'll start by standing and facing the clock by the doorway and waving to those friends of ours at home. And next we'll turn to our neighbors and say hello here in the chapel.
That's the way it goes. Whoops. They love noise. Yeah. Did you go to the Haven service? Yeah. Oh, thank you. Right. Good for you.
For our online guests, if you would like to share a joy or sorrow during that portion of the service, you can enter so by entering it on YouTube, the YouTube chat, and these will be read aloud during that portion of the service. I also encourage you to identify yourself in the chat so that we may better acknowledge your presence with us today. And we have a responsive reading call to worship today. And you will be reading the yellow words, and I'll be reading the others. This is the season of anticipation, of expecting, of hoping, of wanting. This is the time of expecting the arrival of something or someone.
We are waiting.
This is the time of living in darkness, in the hues of unknowing, of being quiet, of reflecting on a year almost past, waiting for a new beginning, for a closing or an end. This is the time for digesting the lessons of the day gone past, anticipating the future for which
We are waiting.
Waiting for a world which can know justice, waiting for a lasting peace, waiting for the bridge to span the divides which separate us, waiting for a promise or a hope. For all of this,
We are waiting.
Our chalice lighting words are by Deborah Falk. The chalice lit among us is a beacon of hope in a world in crisis, a beacon of possibility made manifest in community, a beacon of warmth through our interconnections, a beacon of light illuminating our shared wisdom, a beacon of connection by our being together.
We'll also light the first 2 candles on our Advent wreath that symbolize hope and peace. Good morning. So good to see all of you on this adventure that we've undertaken together. I absolutely want to thank, before we start, the people who have taken up the charge of dealing with this situation. Cynthia, Sherry, who else? Eric. Yes, Eric, and others who have been really involved in trying to get this sorted out so that we can get our building back in order and be back in the full building. But look at us, we're here in this room. We are survivors. Worse things have happened, remember that. So we will endure, we will not have coffee for a while, but here we are. And we will have our services all through the month. Our opening words today are by Wendell Berry. It's a poem entitled Drought Year. He writes, I was born in a drought year. That summer, my mother waited in the house, enclosed in the sun and the dry, ceaseless wind, for the men to come back in the evening, bringing water from a distant spring. Veins of leaves ran dry, roots shrank, and all my life I had dreaded the return of that year, sure that it is still somewhere, like a dead enemy's soul. Fear of dust in my mouth is always with me, and I am a faithful husband of the rain. I love the water of wells and springs and the taste of roots in the water of cisterns. I am a dry man whose thirst is praise of clouds and whose mind is something of a cup. My sweetness is to wake in the night after days of dry heat, hearing the rain. Our first hymn is in celebration of Hanukkah, which we are in the midst of, and it is number 221 in the gray hymnal, Light One Candle. Please rise as you are willing and able.
two children of all ages here and online.
Tara, turn it on.
Sorry. Forgot my microphone. Good morning. So our story today is called Oscar and the Eight Blessings. It takes place in the year 1938, just after the Night of Broken Glass, the Nazis' first wide-scale action against the Jewish people of Germany and Austria, and later throughout Europe. Oscar is sent to America alone with nothing but a photograph and an address of a relative he's never met. But there is still good to be found in his new world. Let's see if you can find all 8 of Oscar's blessings. Oscar's mother and father believed in the power of blessings. So did Oscar. Until the Night of Broken Glass. His parents put him on a ship to America. He had nothing but an address and a photo of a woman he didn't know. It's your Aunt Esther. And his father's last words to him, Oscar, even in bad times, people can be good. You have to look for the blessings. Oscar arrived in New York on the 7th day of Hanukkah. It was also Christmas Eve. He knew his Aunt Esther would be lighting the menorah at sunset. To reach her before the sun went down, Oscar would have to walk over 100 blocks on the avenue called Broadway. The city was terribly big, Oscar was terribly small, and Broadway stretched before him like a river. Oscar was already tired, hungry, and cold. His father's last words to him felt very far away. After a few blocks, he looked up to see a woman feeding pigeons. She offered him a piece of stale roll so he could feed them too. Oscar wanted to feed the birds, but he was too hungry not to swallow the morsel himself. The woman reached inside her coat and gave him a small loaf of bread. It was warm and fresh. It gave him the strength to keep walking. He saw a newsstand full of comics. One showed a strong man in a cape doing amazing things. He stopped bullets. He stopped trains. The newsstand man held out his hand. Oscar didn't have money, so he gave back the comic book. The man called to him, "Keep it, kid. Merry Christmas." Oscar clutched his gift, his Superman, and he heard his father's words, "You have to look for the blessings." Oscar kept walking. He stopped when he heard music coming from a little alley where a big man was humming a jazzy tune. The man whistled to Oscar. Oscar whistled back. They made a tune as fast and light as the snowflakes falling around them. It was Oscar's first conversation in America. At the corner of a park, boys were having a snowball fight. One boy slipped. Oscar leaped and caught him just like the Superman would have done. The boy was laughing, and that made Oscar laugh. But when he looked at Oscar's cold hands, he stopped laughing. He took off his mittens. Oscar put them on and felt the boy's warmth. He had something to give the boy, too. A few blocks later, a tall lady in a big coat walked out of a building. A policeman shouted, "Stand aside!" Oscar stopped short. "Oh, Thomas, he's just a child," the lady said to the policeman. "Let him pass." She winked at Oscar. The policeman moved out of Oscar's path. "Yes, Mrs. Roosevelt." Mrs. Roosevelt. The sun was setting and Oscar began to run. He had to get to Aunt Esther's before she lit the shamash. Running, he stumbled and fell. A hand reached down and pulled him up. "Back on your feet, son." His father was right. People can be good. He turned the corner and ran down the street looking for her house. He ran past a woman humming a nigandal. Suddenly, he heard a name. Benjamin? It wasn't his name. It was his father's, and it washed over him. She had a dimpled smile just like his. "That's Papa," he said. "I'm Oscar," whispered Aunt Esther. So none of Oscar's 8 blessings were supernatural or miraculous. They were actions and choices made by people like you and me. And that's both inspiring and hopeful because we all have the power to bless each other in this world. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the service.
Thank you, Tara.
Thank you, Tara. Well, like the Hanukkah Menorah, this is my menorah. And first we light the shamas, or the leader, which means leader in Hebrew. And with the shamas, we light the other candles. Sing the prayer. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushonu b'mitzvoso, v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Hanukkah. Which means, blessed art thou, Lord our God, King of the universe, who blessed us with your commandments and commands us to kindle the Hanukkah lights. I invite you now into a quiet time of meditation and breath and peace. And I encourage you to put your feet on the floor and uncross your arms, because what you really want is to see how much spaciousness you can create. See if you can lay your hands on your lap in a sort of open manner. Drop your shoulders, close your eyes, and just take one big breath to start. Big inhale, big exhale. Feel a release coming through your body, starting with the top of your head and moving through your jaw. We hold a lot of tension in our face, in our shoulders, in our neck, in our chest and throat. So just breathe. 4 beats in slowly through your nose, 5 or 6 beats out slowly through your mouth in a steady rhythm, creating spaciousness, moving down your body as you breathe. No high thinking, no problem solving, just presence. Believe that in order to meditate, you need to put aside 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. You can take 5-minute breath Sabbaths throughout the day, doing just what we're doing right now, and feel how it grounds you and centers you. Stop and feel, breathe, and allow. Our meditative hymn is number 95, There is More Love Somewhere. We'll remain seated for this hymn.
Thank you.
Hope by Jennifer Pratt Walter. See how the winds have shaped her hands to hold hope. So tenuous, it trembles like a hummingbird's nest. She gently carries hope to a nest in the midst of the maelstrom and tilts it into the bowl of tiny feathers and mosses. Hope is hard to cup. She might need your help. When it seeps through the cracks of her fingers, place your hands like this around hers. Together it can be done. When it hatches, when the nest is no more, watch the wind pick up hope and lay it softly into the welcome of upraised palms.
Come on in. In our opening words this morning, the poet Wendell Berry explains that he was born in a drought year. Children being born this year, in 2023, all over the world, share his origins. Wendell and our grandbabies are not alone. Drought years abound, and they are ancient too. In the book of Job, in Hebrew scripture, we find this question: who has cut a channel for the torrents of rain and a way for the thunderbolt to bring rain on a land where no one lives, on the desert which is empty of human life, to make the ground put forth grass? Well, this being Hebrew scripture after all, the answer is fairly obvious. Yahweh, the God of Judaism, makes it rain. In fact, he does that a lot in the Bible, and the first impressive demonstration of this awesome and fearsome power shows up early in Genesis 6, the very well-known story of Noah and the ark. I grew up with this gem of Jewish prehistoric myth. Judaism has prehistoric mythology like every religion, at Beth Sholem Sunday School. And I sang camp songs about it on the banks of Lake Erie. Maybe you knew them. The Lord said to Noah, there's going to be a floody. Get those children out of the muddy, children of the Lord, right? Rise and shine. Yes, God ultimately makes it rain on Noah, his family, and the wicked residents of Sodom and Gomorrah, but he takes his sweet time about it. Yahweh is given plenty of time to develop faith, sustain hope, learn carpentry, catalog the entire natural world, and craft a very, very big boat. It takes him decades. It's hard to see that when you read the story, that this took decades. Yahweh is patiently observing and abiding with his faithful servant. Noah needs as much time as he can get because he has no idea how an ark is designed or constructed. He doesn't have TikTok. He doesn't have Wikipedia or YouTube. He has received no itinerary on how far this vessel will need to travel or for how long. He acts on hope and gratitude for God's blessings. When you read the passages about the ark's construction, and if you know anything about boats, you will notice that the ark has no rudder for steering. Never mentioned. So one can safely assume that God is meant to serve this purpose for Noah. Even so, the patriarch and his brood are still the ones who need to make ready for the flood, and in doing so, he makes himself look delusional to the villagers. He builds a boat without a drop of water in sight. Noah, as we know, brings a male and a female of every species on board, every plant, every variety of seed, and some humans, and he prays. He waits and he prepares for water he isn't thrilled to see pouring from the sky. But he prepares and waits for water that he knows will destroy and hopes will renew. Water he has been promised will carry them to the higher ground of peace, goodness, and new possibilities. The Genesis text tells us that God explains the flood to Noah by saying that the earth is filled with violence. And this is still sadly true. Noah is an exception, a righteous man, blameless in his age, so not perfect, but a better class of people than the sinners next door. Yahweh also makes the point that the earth has been corrupted, and this is also sadly true. My colleague, the Reverend Anna Levy-Lyons, draws an incisive parallel between this ancient myth and our real-life predicament today in one of her sermons. She writes that in each, it is human wrongdoing, misuse of natural resources, and interpersonal violence that brings the threat of planetary destruction. In each, this desecration threatens not only the humans who precipitated it, but all living creatures. And in each, it is only through the resolve of imperfect, faithful, peaceful people willing to take responsibility and action, even if they are not the guilty ones. An editorial in the Jerusalem Post asks us to consider that in our daily lives, the small decisions we make may seem insignificant, but they add up, and they support supply chains and systems that make us complicit in resource exhaustion, carbon overloading, ocean acidification, pollution, drought, war, oppression, and so much more. The signs are clear. How do we answer humanity's needs here in Gresham, Oregon, in our daily lives, in our small decisions? Well, I'm not quite sure what constitutes a cubit. Noah had to figure that out too. And I have no idea where to source a supply of seasoned gopher wood, or a pair of gazelles, a raven, a messenger dove. But I am going to ask us to follow Noah's example and build ourselves an ark on hope. The planks for us will be hewn by self-reflection, conviction, gratitude, and grounded optimism. Measure twice, cut once, right? That's what I've always been told. So that first measure is to take your T-squares and pencils and draft these arcs on the inside before setting to work crafting those tangible vessels that will carry us when the water arrives. This means, despite the pressures and influences of society, social media, the world around us, this means focusing on essence qualities like kindness and character, rather than form qualities like outer beauty and wealth. It means striving to develop belovedness with ourselves first, and knowing that if we don't value ourselves, the arcs we build to carry us, our relationships, and this congregation will be full of leaks no matter how sturdy they appear. Who inspires you to have hope? Who has inspired you to reckon with yourself, forgive yourself, live into new possibilities? Jimmy Carter? Rosalind Carter? Well, just this past Friday, I co-officiated with Susie the memorial service for our Minister Emeritus, David Maynard, and quite a few of you were there. You never know how many people will show up for a memorial for a 78-year-old, but on Friday, we filled the First Unitarian Chapel with, I think, at least 150 souls. We never could have accommodated that many here, so again, the universe worked in our favor. So during the sharings from the congregation, and if you were there, you heard these, we heard tribute after tribute to David's role as a sponsor, counselor, and supporter to people in recovery. Person after person noticed how he had literally saved their lives. He was an ark built in many a drought year of his own, or for those who were suffering and had all but given up hope. I have to say, I was surprised and I was truly inspired to sharpen my own tools to serve as that kind of Noah-like example, like my departed colleague. And yet I am so aware of how we, including myself, can procrastinate, we can avoid, we can justify. We say next week when I'm less tired, next month when somebody rescues me, next year when I'm happier, tomorrow when I'm braver, someday when the moment is right, and I actually feel a raindrop or two, then I will set my shoulder to the wheel. Noah didn't have this choice, and I'm not sure he would have taken it even if it had been on offer. He built the ark before he had water. He built a boat in anticipation of water. Just as we are building arks of hope and possibility in our new relationship as minister and congregation. Now, nearly every midrash or parsha, and a parsha is a scholarly or spiritual interpretation of Torah portions from Hebrew scripture, and Torah is the first 5 books of Hebrew scripture, so Genesis obviously is part of that. So these are called midrash and parsha. And nearly every one of them centers hope as the theme of Noah's heroic story. And Noah, as we know, is typically depicted with a dove and a rainbow. Now, my favorite parsha about Noah comes from the Rabbi Rachel Zarin, the spiritual leader of Temple Emmanuel in Providence, Rhode Island. She highlights something from the tale that is easy to miss. She notes that Noah cuts a window in the ark. Yahweh doesn't command Noah to cut a window. He never mentions it, but he does this on his own. Why would this boat need a window? What function could it serve? The thick covering of clouds and the intense storms that will accompany the 40-day sojourn of Noah and his cargo must have meant that there would have been almost no daylight or sunlight breaking through. The purpose of the window, then, Rabbi Zarin suggests, was not to see the outside world, but an expression of Noah's human hopefulness that no matter how dark it gets, light would eventually return. Noah's story, I think, would have been a true companion to us during the pandemic. But perhaps we find the most touching member of hope in Noah's final few actions. After the flood ends and the water subsides, Noah opens that window and he sends out a raven to see if there's dry land. But the raven returns, so they must remain on board. Noah waits hopefully, And then he decides to send out a dove, and it also returns empty-handed. So he spends 10 months in the ark. Noah had promised to save Noah and his family and the bounty of the earth, but he never promised that Noah would walk on dry land, did he? But Noah does not lose hope. This is one hopeful guy. He sends out that dove again, and this time it returns with an olive branch in its mouth, proof that the waters have subsided enough to find a tree. Proof that they would walk again on dry land, that the entire world had not disappeared, and that peace might prevail after all. Noah was a human being, and he might not have had faith on his own. Perhaps he would not have thought to create a window in the ark. But God promised him water and did promise him deliverance. To build a boat on dry land is an act of valor, an expression of faith. It is a humble and hopeful religious response, especially in a culture that does not trust what it cannot see, sometimes doesn't trust what it can see. But build we must, whether this means establishing more durable self-esteem, greater compassion for others, more inclusiveness, or more clarity about who we want our boatmates to be in our lives. Build we must, as stewards of our planet, our democracy, our very humanity, never ceasing to send out doves in a persistent search for signs of renewal, never losing faith that there is a way forward. One could argue that the Maccabees, the warriors from the Hanukkah story, were tragic optimists. There they were, under the thumb of an invading ruler, exiled from their religious practices, greatly outnumbered and ill-equipped. And yet they charged down from the hills to retake and dedicate their temple. They had a purpose and a plan, and they built their ark. They waited patiently, and they acted on hope. May we be patient with ourselves, beloved boat builders. May we celebrate the abundance in our lives. May we be grateful for the vessels who carry us. Like Wendell Berry, may our sweetness wake us in the night from days of dry heat, hearing the rain. This Hanukkah, as war and death pervade the holy lands of the Maccabees and the Gazans, may we remember something else, that hope is a universal impulse that transcends identity, transcends religion, and that occupation is never acceptable, regardless of who is occupied and who is occupying. It is simply wrong. And I feel it gives new meaning to the line in the song we sang earlier that I've sung every year on Hanukkah, Light One Candle. May we learn to not become our own foe. May we send the energy of love and hope to the Middle East today, and may we carry on through all the seasons of love and pain. May we measure in love. Lisa Brakey, one of my congregants in Flagstaff, Arizona, wrote this poem entitled One Day. She encourages us, take care of your friends. One day your namaste will land in another soul, and her flame will rekindle your skull-shaped chalice. For now, just swim up behind glass eyes like a fish hoping to spot another fish in a tank across the room, but see only strange pink giants somehow thriving in a vacuum of light and air. And take care of your soul. One day that dove, that thing with feathers, will fly back and play you like a violin. But for now, beat the dust out of that worn, beloved coat and take a walk in the rain. May we faithfully and humbly and courageously build our arks, inwardly and outwardly, and then may we wait patiently together for water, even in a drought year. blessed be, blessed we, shalom, salam, and amen. Our hymn is number 346. Come sing a song with me. Please rise as you are willing and able.
We give to remind ourselves how many gifts we have to offer. We give to remember that we are part of something bigger than ourselves. We give because we believe in music and sacred space. We give with a faith that together we have enough. Half of each week's Sunday's collection is shared with a local nonprofit. The fourth quarter of this year, we are sharing the bounty with Our Just Future. Our Just Future counters the forces that keep people and communities in poverty by building relationships and assets that create opportunity today and for future generations. If you are a first-time visitor, please let the basket pass you by. You are our guest today. We now gratefully receive the gifts of the congregation. chalice extinguishing words are by Deborah Burrell. We have basked in the warmth and beauty of this flame and this community. As the chalice flame is extinguished, let us carry its glow within. Let us kindle new sparks within these walls and beyond.
Our benediction today is a lovely light number from the internet called All I Need to Know I Learned from Noah's Ark. 1, don't miss the boat. 2, remember that we are all in the same sea, if not the same boat. 3, plan ahead. As my sermon said, it wasn't raining when Noah built the ark. 4, stay fit. When you're 600 years old, someone may ask you to do something really big. 5, don't listen to critics. Just get on with the job that needs to be done. 6, build your future on high ground. 7, for safety's sake, travel in pairs. 8, speed isn't always an advantage. The snails were on board before the cheetahs. 9, when you're stressed, float for a while. And 10, remember the Ark was built by amateurs and the Titanic was built by professionals. And 11, no matter the storm, when you have hope and patience, there is often a rainbow waiting after the rain. Blessed be.
We hope to see you all next week. Reverend Robin will be speaking on Blessed Are, a Humanist Sermon on the Mount for 2023. As a reminder, we will be having Christmas Eve service at 4 p.m., so not the morning time, but like we do on a typical Sunday. And today, if you're interested, we are having our first choir rehearsal for the Christmas Eve service. 12 o'clock, and Mary will be leading us with that right here. So I hope some of you will stay for that. Let's see. We have a pair of glasses were found in the ladies' room, and there are another pair of glasses up here. So if you're missing any glasses, contact the office, Sherry in the office. I think that's all the announcements. Did I miss anything?
Coffee if you want to stay
Yes,
in the sanctuary for
right.
a while and socialize. Please feel free
And
to
have a
do
Rice
that.
Krispie treat.
Oh, that's right. That's a good reason to stay and visit. Okay, so our service is ending now. And if you are attending online, you can exit YouTube and then connect to Cafe Conversations on Zoom.
And much thanks to Jan and Mary and our greeters today for collaborating on yet another beautiful service. Thank you.